Okay, I'll take it in two different parts. I'll come to the question about the aged couple that are happily married later on, because that's slightly separate. But just to introduce the novel, people have called it. Some people have called it a fantasy novel, which is quite interesting for me because I wasn't so aware of it being a fantasy novel. You mentioned Arthurian legend, and indeed it takes place in Britain of a long, long time ago, in 5th century Britain. But oddly enough, I mean, I have to say, I never started this novel thinking, oh, I must write a book, set in that kind of period or that kind of world. In fact, when I was last in Tokyo, when I met you the first time, 2001, I remember talking to an audience, not here at Keio, I don't think, but at the Hayakawa International Forum. I was saying then that I wanted to write a novel that looked at how societies and nations remembered things and forgot things. That I had written many novels before, or a few novels anyway, about how individual people struggled with their past and how sometimes they tried to bury some things in their past, but then another side of them very much wanted to remember everything and be honest with themselves, and there was a struggle. But I wanted to write a novel about how larger groups of people, a community, how a nation, a country, went through the same process. There are many things that countries want to forget from their history, perhaps even their recent history. And sometimes there's a very good reason why they should. I mean, I'm not saying that it's good or bad to forget. Sometimes it's a good thing, perhaps, to forget, because it stops terrible things happening. But sometimes there's a moment when you have to try and remember what happened as well. And I remember saying this when I was last here in Tokyo, and ever since then I've been trying to write a novel about this subject. And it's taken me this long, I suppose, to publish this novel, but it's essentially, although it's set many years ago in this kind of fantasy version of Britain, rather like an Arthurian legend kind of place, it's really about many contemporary situations today. Nations that are perhaps on the verge of civil war or that have recently come through traumatic experiences, and they have tried to just forget, where different tribes within the same nation try and live together peacefully by agreeing to forget some of the conflict and the terrible things that have happened to them a generation ago, 2 generations ago. Can this kind of peace, can this kind of forgetting actually be maintained? When is it better to stop forgetting and to try and unbury these memories from the past? And I think when I thought about almost every country I knew at all in the world, Britain, America, France, Japan, I could immediately think of all kinds of things that were the nation had agreed to keep slightly forgotten and buried, And rather than set the book actually in one of these countries, or rather than set it in, say, in Bosnia, where a lot of the old memories suddenly came to the surface and people started to murder each other, or Rwanda, where the same thing happened. I made the decision in the end not to set it in any contemporary historical situation, but to try and set it in some long ago past, so that people would be encouraged to say, well, this is like a metaphor. You can apply it to all kinds of places in the world, all kinds of moments of history, many places in the world today. So that's essentially why I came to choose this post-Arthurian setting, or a place that's deliberately not journalistic and not historical.